Well, today is World Refugee Day, a chance to shine a light on the humanitarian crisis faced by refugees and discuss how we can solve them. I'm Jean Lambert, Green Party's member of the European Parliament for London, and I've been working on issues relating to asylum and immigration in the European Parliament for the last 20 years. I'm finishing my mandate at the end of this month, so I'm excited to introduce you to some of the new members, the new Green members of the European Parliament, who will be fighting hard to bring the European Union's outdated asylum policies up to standard in the next 5 years. So I'm joined by Erik, who is a photojournalist from Germany who spent time travelling along the refugee route from Afghanistan to Europe. And he's also worked with the incredible Sea-Watch search and rescue team, helping to save thousands from drowning in the Mediterranean. We also have Damien Careme, Damien has been the mayor of Grand Sainte in northern France since 2001. The region near Dunkirk received thousands of refugees in 2015-2016. And without any funding from the French government, Damien worked with the NGO Doctors Without Borders to build a relatively safe and clean humanitarian camp for refugees in the area. Damien will speak in French. I will try to interpret when we come to the questions and answers. And then we have Bah Kuhnke. And Alice has served as the Swedish Minister for Culture and Democracy until January this year, working on issues including refugee integration, as well as combating racism and hate crime. So you can see there's a real wealth of experience and ideas in this new Green group. So I wanted to start with the first question, that it's really difficult to push through progressive changes for EU asylum policies. Why do you think this is the case, and how would you hope to resolve this? So let's start with Alice.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you for inviting us to this discussion. It's such an honor. Well, I think the biggest problem that we are all facing is the lack of will. I mean, there are too few politicians in Europe, within the EU, that we are really willing to act in solidarity. And they are too many are too influenced by the right wing and the nationalistic politics. And that's really the big hinder against a solidaric and a politic that will help people. That's the big problem.
Okay, Damien, vous êtes d'accord que c'est le manque d'une volonté politique?
Oui, je pense que, et ça a été dit lors de la précédente mandature, notamment par Philippe Lambert, le président du groupe, quand il s'adressait aux membres de la majorité en leur disant qu'en fait, ils utilisaient la rhétorique de l'extrême droite, ils mettaient en œuvre les politiques de l'extrême droite, donc ils font le jeu de l'extrême droite. Voilà, c'est un manque de courage politique, un manque d'audace politique.
Okay, so we agree that this is a lack of political will, and that when you take on the language of the far right, you basically are doing the work of the far right. And Erik, what would you want to maybe add to that?
I think that it's also a question of the public opinion. I think we also have to work for a better public opinion, for a better understanding of the situation in which people have to flee, but also for the situation in the democracy, that it's not everything about a majority who have to decide about minorities or something. I think it's a situation where we have to explain, as people who maybe are happy if they have like 10 minutes a week without politics, to people who are very happy when they have 10 minutes a week for politics. And I think that's also...
Do you really think it's knowledge that are lacking? I think people know.
I think you cannot say that everyone has no knowledge about the situation, but I think that it's not so easy to understand the connections between different problems and how to solve the big problems in the world, and that it's not about building some walls and the problem is solved because you don't see it anymore, but about working for a better understanding how to solve challenges for the future.
Okay, and when we're talking about public opinion, opinion publique, Damien, comme maire de Grande-Synthe, comme je disais, il y a plein d'immigrés, de demandeurs d'asile qui sont là et qui risquent tout pour atteindre le Royaume-Uni. Pourquoi vous pensez que tous ces gens ont envie de faire ça? Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire au Parlement européen?
Alors, il y a beaucoup de ces personnes, de ces exilés qui vont chercher, qui viennent sur le continent européen parce que c'est un continent de paix, c'est un continent prospère sur le plan économique et que chez eux c'est la difficulté, c'est le terrorisme, c'est les dictatures et donc ils viennent trouver refuge sur notre continent européen. Ensuite, ils veulent aller pour certains en Angleterre pour des raisons familiales. Parce qu'il y a une diaspora importante en Angleterre, parce qu'il n'y a pas de contrôle d'identité, il n'y a pas de carte d'identité, parce qu'ils parlent le langage, parce qu'ils parlent la langue, et c'est leur choix de se rendre là. Il y en a beaucoup aussi qui veulent aller en Allemagne, qui veulent aller en Suède, parce que l'histoire des migrations fait qu'ils sont historiquement vers l'Allemagne et la Suède. Et c'est à nous de réformer notre manière de les accueillir. Je ne pense pas, en ce qui me concerne, qu'il y a un problème migratoire. Il y a un problème d'accueil de ces migrants sur notre territoire européen.
Okay, so what we have is not a problem about migration, it's a problem of welcome. And that, of course, when we see people who are fleeing dictatorships, who are fleeing terrorism in their countries of origin, that these are people who are wanting to reach their families. And there's an important diaspora in the UK for many of these countries. We don't have identity cards in the UK yet. People speaking English. And also, of course, a lot of people will want to go to Germany or Sweden for historical reasons. But our big problem is how we welcome people, how we treat people when they arrive. So, I mean, is that your...
Yes, I mean, I thought it was very well put. That is where we have the problem. And I think it really adds to what you said earlier about knowledge about how everything is connected. I mean, I still meet people, even as a Green politician, you meet people who says that, I mean, we are against the human rights. We are against to helping people, and we are also against to investing in the climate. And then when you tell them that if you don't invest in climate change, then even more people will flee. They say, oh, will them? And you see how they suddenly... So, I mean, maybe the welcoming is also connected to that lack of knowledge. If they know more, they would maybe want more to solve problems.
But your experience, Erik, has been rather different. I mean, when we look, for example, at Italy and how just last week the Italian government passed a law making it a crime to rescue refugees from drowning in water and to fine people for doing that. And Italy isn't alone. Across Europe, we've got a number of EU member states trying to criminalise humanitarian aid. What do you think we can do to fight back against that trend of criminalising those that want to help?
I think one thing is to first explain that how can I say it? It's like to explain that the far-right discussion is far away from reality. Mm-hmm. And if you, for example, in Italy, always talk about migration as a problem and do not talk about that actually the search and rescue missions are not about migration in the first place. They're about fundamental rights, and it's not the thing that a person who drones is a migrant or something, but a person who drones. Mm-hmm. And there is like no two answers to the question if you should rescue a person who is about to die at the moment. And I think to explain the situation at sea, to explain the reality that there is no easy, like, cutting off people fleeing from Libya or whatever, and you cannot just say, okay, if we have no sea rescue vessels, there will be no refugees or whatever. Like, I think the reality is a little bit more complex, and we have to find a way to communicate better about the reality, and also to, have some possibilities on the European level to, force some member states who are not willing to accept fundamental rights, not willing to, respect the European values somehow, to make them feel that there are consequences, and that is not like a way to have a European Union without any values if it comes to discussions or whatever.
Yeah. So that question of universal fundamental rights, you look at the person, not the label.
Yeah, and also to explain that fundamental rights are not only for the others, but if you say, I'm not, as you say, I'm not interested in human rights, you also have to explain that human rights are not about the others, but if you say the others have no human rights, you also have no human rights yourself.
But to be able to understand that, you need, in Swedish we have two words for, you have knowledge and then you have bildning. You have it's two different things.
Understanding.
And understand bildning, you need a bildning society. I don't know what's it called in English. That's when you have so much knowledge in a way so that you can handle different things and perspectives. And we can see that today in Sweden we are lacking in giving our children bildning. We give them knowledge about how to maths and physics and all this, but we don't give them bildning that you get from literature, from the arts and so on. And when you get that in the long run, we also need to make sure that the European people are bildade enough so that they can handle a complex reality. And then you need culture also, and art and music and all these things. Otherwise, we in the long run won't be able to help people in the world. Maybe I was too philosophical, but this is really the crucial...
And do you feel that if we're looking at questions of integration, and integration has been a big issue in this last parliament, which usually means people adapting to the European Union. Nothing that, we say it's two ways, but it's one way. Sens unique, c'est right. That sort of wider educational part matters.
Yes, I think it's crucial in the long run. If we as Greens, we must be experts in thinking more than 5 years and 10 years. We must be thinking in 25 years and 50 and 100 years. We need bildning. What's the English word? I don't know what it is, but we need bildning. But in the short run, we need to do a lot. In Sweden, as I know the best, we need to make sure that our public agencies work faster and more efficient and more safe when it comes to the rule of law and everything. Right now, people fleeing and coming to Sweden may have to wait for years before they know if they can stay or not. And the children are going to school, learning French, Swedish, forgetting everything else. And then suddenly the agencies, the state agencies say, now you have to leave. That's so inhuman, and it's awful, and we are trying to protest against that as Greens in Sweden. So that's one way, and I don't know that is not the case only in Sweden. In several countries, people are waiting too long to get the papers and to know that they really can stay. And then we must also make sure that people can connect together, because right now we have so many people around the world who are not with their children or not with their parents, and that's awful.
Yeah. Et c'est bien le cas en France. Oui. Je crois que les gens doivent attendre
très longtemps. Et malheureusement, ils n'ont pas accès à des cours de français suffisamment. Ils n'ont pas un soutien psychologique dont ils ont besoin parce qu'elles ont eu un parcours très difficile. Voilà, il y a beaucoup de problèmes dans l'accueil, dans ce qu'on met en œuvre pour accueillir correctement ces personnes.
Thank you. So again, in France, people need that access to language courses. They need, that sort of the psychological support. Also, questions of family reunion. That's something that certainly in the last Parliament we have really pushed for. So it seems to me that listening to Damien, to Erik, to Alice, we have some strong fighters in this Parliament for real enthusiasm and a commitment to making things work for Europe, and I really look forward to seeing what you can do in 5 years, and we would ask you to be sure to follow the Greens on social media and on Facebook to be updated on the work here, because we're looking at issues around how the public agencies respond, at family reunion, at fundamental rights, at a whole question of how we welcome people and see people as individuals who have rights in their own individual case, not as problems. So, also, please, during the Refugee Week as well, I'll put in an advert for my own Facebook and Twitter. We're looking at sort of 5 things that we could be doing to actually improve things. So once again, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And the best of luck for the next 5 years.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In the Parliament. Thank you very much.
And for your work outside. Okay, thank you. Thank you.